ProfsCast with Professor Fensterle and guests. Yeah, welcome to the ProfsCast. My name is Joe Fensterle from the Rhine-Waal University in Kleve, and I'm happy to have my guest here today, to welcome my guest here today, Professor Jürgen Becker from the University of Essen. Welcome, Jürgen Becker.
Hi, welcome, Joe. I guess we could stick with first names.
Yeah, we can stick with first names, of course, and I'm welcoming, to be honest, it's the other way around. I'm here at Jürgen Becker's home, so he's welcoming me, and I'm happy that I can be here. So Jürgen, you're a skin cancer researcher here in Essen, and you work in translational medicine, but I think with 500 publications roundabout, as I found on Medline, this is a bit too short, this description. So maybe you can tell us, what are you actually doing? What is your job description and where are you located here?
Actually, it's the right job description. I'm doing cancer research, doing research in skin cancer. And I actually had a great opportunity to get offered a job where I can focus on translational research, so that I try to bring together clinical experience with some basic research, which otherwise wouldn't be possible. Quite often for medical researchers, you do full-time clinical work, and then in the afternoon do you a little bit of your scientific work as a hobby, which was fine 30 years ago. I hate to admit that I'm that long in science, but these things have completely changed because methods become more complicated, more sophisticated, more fun, but also more time consuming to really understand what's going on. And then a couple of years back, our former Minister of Research and Education, Dr. Schawan, she came up with the idea that they should fund really some translational research. And this was the German Consortium for Translational Cancer Research. There were also a couple of other consortia for other important diseases. And the thing is, really what we're trying to do is to do clinical trials within cancer research, trying to understand what is happening, trying also to understand what drives certain cancers. And all this is actually a lot of fun. So this is a very privileged position, and I'm happy to have that.
That is great to hear that you're happy in these times. Not all of the people are happy, obviously. You already named it. It's medical research. So if I read your title, it's Professor, Doctor.
Yep.
So you are also a real doctor, I assume. So.
I don't know what is the real doctor of it, but actually it's both an MD as well as a PhD. Mm-hmm. And that story goes a little bit back because in the middle of my training as a dermatologist, I decided to spend some time mostly in the lab. So with funding from the DFG, I went to the States to do some basic research for a couple of years. And when I went there as a postdoc, being an MD, a couple of my friends there were saying, okay, you're not a real doctor because, I mean, like you, they were not thinking that MDs are real doctors. So that time I decided also, maybe it's not that bad to do a PhD. And when I was actually back in Würzburg, one of my close collaborators in Copenhagen, we were talking, and then I said, a PhD would be great. And then actually I started to do my PhD in his group, which was also funded through them, and which gave me the opportunity also to do a PhD in biology, which is actually in immunology. So it's one doctor for a medical doctor and one it's a PhD.
Yeah, I think that it's a long discussion. What is now the real doctor and not? So my daughter, for example, when I made my PhD, she was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and she asked me whether I'm a real doctor now, and I have to confess, no, I'm not a medical doctor, and all the other doctors didn't count. So therefore, the real doctor, it's the question what it is.
It was the same girl who also thought you were a hunter because you were killing mice,
yeah,
right?
that's the point. That's the point. But this only works in German because it's the Förster and the Forscher. Yeah. But this is also kind of then translational because if I understood you correctly, you worked also as a medical doctor, not just in research. So in your career. So could you comment on what was your career?
No, my training was actually, I studied first medicine. After finishing med school, I did my MD thesis, actually already doing translational research on natural killer cells, and my MD thesis advisor, Reinhold Schmidt, who's just retired this year. So there was already like some interest into doing research right away. And also it took me a little bit longer for my MD thesis. It's not like this couple of months with some MDs, but actually 1.5 years.
So it was already a real MD.
It was a real MD, and also there were coming 2 actually nice papers. The first one in 1990.
Okay.
Out and
I can cut this out if you want this 1990.
I can live with that.
Okay.
And the second one was published in a Journal of Immunology, which is actually quite nice for an MD.
For an MD,
yeah. So basically, coming in there, I decided that this is something for me, and also then I was looking for a job. Initially, I wanted to go into internal medicine, cure the mankind of all bad diseases. But then by accident, I was applying for dermatology. And then I decided, hey, this is not that bad because it's not that tough on the daily life because you not always die from dermatologic diseases.
So where have you been in the States?
I had been at Scripps, which is in La Jolla, San Diego. So beautiful Southern California. Before Trump, so this was really cool. It's also nicely located because the weather's always so nice, so you do not have to feel bad if you work on a really nice day in the lab, and still you know that the next day will be equally nice.
That's an advantage in this case, yeah. You started with studying medicine. Did you always dream of becoming a medical doctor, or did you, when you were a child or so, did you say, I want to become a medical doctor, or I want to become a researcher?
Actually, when I started to study, I wasn't really sure what to study. So I started both with physics and medicine.
Physics and medicine.
And after 2 years, I decided you have to do one or the other. And since in physics I was with lots of males, no females around, so I decided maybe medicine is a little bit better. And also to give you more practical things to do. And also, since you can't be always sure that research is working out, it's good to have something to fall back on, like a solid job, like being a medical doctor.
Okay. Now, biomedical research, so you say skin cancers, but skin cancer is an enormous field. So if I remember correctly, you concentrated a bit on a certain tumor, which is the merkel cell carcinoma. Am I right? So what is the difference of a merkel cell carcinoma compared to other tumors?
With respect to merkel cell carcinoma, in first place is that it's a rare cancer. And it's used to be a rather small group of people working in it. So we knew each other very well. And we're all friends with each other. I mean, now this changed a little bit because there was more success made in merkel cell carcinoma, both with understanding of the disease as well of therapeutics. So the field became a little bit larger. But in the short term, it's one of these non-melanoma skin cancers, which is highly aggressive, which until a couple of years back killed most of the patients who hadn't been cured initially by removing the primary tumor. But this changed a lot because immunotherapy is a big thing there, because it's a tumor which is either induced by viral transformation or by heavy UV mutations, so both causing good epitopes recognizable by the immune system. So here it was clear cut that immunotherapy could work, and actually did work. What was most surprising that it took such a long time until pharmaceutical companies were testing these drugs also in merkel cell carcinoma.
So But coming back to your decision to go to Merkel cell carcinoma, that sounds a bit like you can. It's wise to plan a bit the research path. Am I correct that you find a niche where you can go where not 99.9 others are already in?
I wish I could say that I would so much planning. This was also, I mean, similar like going into dermatology. This was more of an accident that I was working like a lot of people in melanoma research. So I was looking something to compare the immune responses we observed in melanoma to another skin cancer. So we picked Merkel cell carcinoma. And then when we submitted our first paper, this is also something which never happened to me before, because actually we got reviews back which were not that easy to ask, to really reply to and rebuttal. But this is normal. I mean, but then actually one of the reviewers called me and she said, okay, I was writing that review. I'm pretty well aware that you can't do the experiments right away, but I give you all the cell lines you need. And I don't want to be a co-author, but just to do it properly, you should do that. And she was actually sending it to me. It was a great experience. And this is actually also what's happening in Merkel cell carcinoma, that people are really helping each other. And it's a very open field. And usually we share results early on, even if it's not published yet. And it's also something which can be easily copied. But it's at least to me, it never happens that someone was stealing anything. It's mostly that afterwards people were confirming what we observed, or we do it the other way around, and it's open sharing. So it's really a fun field to be in. And when we meet once in a while, it's always like I wouldn't say party, but it's like a school reunion to get here things, chatting about what people are doing right now. So it's a very friendly field.
So it's a good news and a bad news at the same time. So I thought that now I have met the first time a person who has planned his research career from the very beginning. But in reality, it's like always that there is a lot of chance with it. But I think the important thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think the successful researchers are the one, if they see there is a chance, that they go then in the field and keep their eyes open. Is that correct?
I think it's always good to keep your eyes open, but what's even more important is to go to a field where you can have fun and really enjoy what you're doing. I think research is not paying that well that you should do something which is not fun. But once it's fun, basically, it's the great thing is that you never really work, because it's not a duty. It's just you got paid for something you want to do.
Jürgen, it was a pleasure to speak to you, to have you here. I cannot say, as I said, I was just invading your home in reality.
Yeah, you actually did. But that's the way I know you, so it wasn't a complete surprise. And it was my pleasure talking to you. And still, it feels weird, even though he told me that it stops, that you realize that you're wearing it. And will be interesting to see how this really turns out. It will turn out great. So thanks very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for the listeners. And to the listeners, at least to the YouTube viewers, I say that the complete part of our talk with all the research and all details will be on the Spotify and so on platform. But again, I'm saying also thank you to everybody who was watching this, and looking forward to my next guest. But this was certainly one of the highlights already. Thanks a lot. Thank you.